Hey, we got Bubs in the chat too. Let's see. Make sure I'm ready. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, the audio's connecting still.
Hello.
Hey, George.
Watch Shaver.
How are
Nice.
you?
I'm well, thank you.
This is great. It's great to finally chat face to face after all the years online.
Yes, likewise. I think so
Yeah.
too. I'm just gonna wipe my camera. There's like some dust on it.
Oh, sure, sure.
Get it very clean.
Yeah. First off, I just want to say thank you so much for, taking the time to join us here.
Oh yeah, sure.
You
Yeah,
are
great.
you're the inaugural guest. This is a very very fun time. Um, so I guess normally with these things they do like an introduction thing, but I'm thinking I'll just tack that on after the conversation. I don't know if there's like anything in particular you would want me to. I mean, Olympic, five-time Olympic athlete, bronze medalist. I read a lot about your philanthropy work.
Oh, uh,
Um,
yeah. I'm not too picky. Well, whatever you think your audience might would be a good introduction for them. Kind
okay,
of. Mhm.
cool, cool. I guess let's just jump into conversation then and see. I don't know. See where things take us. So actually, one thing I wanted to kind of start with is sort of if you have any, perspective or advice for, kids these days who are getting into like esports. Um, because I know, I mean, obviously, like, swimming, it's a very physical, athletic exercise, but I think there's like a lot of sort of potential crossover for like advice to young athletes that maybe you could is sort of like general purpose advice for the realm of like intense competition.
Yeah, yeah. I think that when you look at someone do an incredible stunt or David Blaine do some huge endurance challenge, or you see somebody shoot like a half court basketball shot,
Mhm.
or some marathon under 2 hours, whatever. What you're looking at is not really a physical thing. You're looking at someone who has an incredible amount of self mastery, of control of their mind, and a very strong will to have the mind control the organism, to push the
Mm.
organism outside of its comfort zone and deal with all these emotions that come up in the organism, like
Mhm.
a horse and a rider. So you can take the same approach and you can apply it to anything that you do. And it's about you controlling yourself instead of just reacting to the situation. You can
Okay.
and intentionally respond to the situation. So let's say it's e-gaming and the stakes are really high. You
Mhm.
know, there's a whole bunch of nervous energy. Your organism is going to have shallow breathing, closed body language. You might be
Mhm.
frowning in your face. You might be pressing the tongue against the roof of your mouth. All kinds of signs that are like showing you that your organism's nervous system is stressed.
Mhm. Mhm.
And to have more control over your organism,
So what do you do in that like I know that moment you're talking about, like my palms get all sweaty and like the controllers start slipping out of my hands and everything. What like what's the to do there?
so you need to first be aware of what's happening. Like you're the rider, and you need to be aware of what's happening in your horse, in your organism.
Hmm.
You're like, all right, my organism is showing signs that the nervous system is stressed. The
Okay.
nervous system is this primitive thing. It's designed to survive in like the pre-ice age, caveman days. It thinks its environment's getting ready to kill it. When it does that, it starts to produce all these things. You got your adrenaline coming in, you got the
Hmm.
cortisol, and you have to now consciously go in as the rider and relax. Okay, like be aware, like what is my body language? Like closed up, my neck down. What is my breathing like? My breathing is really shallow. Oh my gosh, what is my face muscles doing? Because you got so many nerves in your face.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if you frown a little bit, it sends a very powerful message to the nervous system, which then sends a message to your brain, which makes the brain chemistry of the stress state.
Huh. Did you say if you frown?
Yeah, even if you frown. So if you relax your
Okay.
facial muscles, and even if you like turn the corners of your mouth up into like a quarter of a smile, that sends a very powerful signal to the biorobots, to the organism, to the horse. Everything's
Oh.
okay. And then that'll start to have the effect where as you tell it everything's okay, the organism relaxes. And when the organism relaxes, it's like a horse. If the horse is crazy and freaking out, you can't control the horse and tell it what to
Mhm.
do. But if you relax the horse, then the horse will listen to the rider and obey the rider. So in the gaming world, if you're going into like high stakes, ultimate level, it's you one on one, someone for the title.
Yup.
If you can keep your organism really relaxed, you'll be able to have so much more control. So instead of just reacting like a scared animal, you'll be able to think properly and be really clever and be really intentional.
Okay. Okay. I love this horse analogy. It
And
seems
let
to fit.
and
It
you'll be
seems
less
to.
more in control.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I guess what I'm taking is kind of like the horse is, to put it in like Freud's terms, would be like your id, like your lower sort of function, and then you have like the super ego kind of like controlling, and like that's like your rider, and then
Yes,
your id is kind of like your, so
exactly.
like, would
Most of the
you, when you,
substance.
when you're like preparing to do like a big dive, say, I well actually, what do you did you do mostly speed swimming? Is
I
that?
was yeah, in the pool competitions, but I'm also an instructor of free diving, where you hold your breath,
Oh,
dive deep, deep.
okay, so you do big diving too. So when you're kind of like psyching yourself up for one of those dives, do you try and do this sort of like make yourself smile thing and
I
kind of
haven't
like,
done diving in a while, but yes, you want to really relax your nervous system and you want to tell your organism that everything's okay. And you can do certain hacks like the
hmm,
inhale breath stimulates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. It's like an accelerator for the mind. But the exhale breath is like a brake for the mind and it calms the nervous system and moves it more towards the parasympathetic, which is rest and digest. So for like a minute before, you can just do like twice as long exhale as inhale. So if you inhale for 8 seconds, you want to exhale for like 16 seconds. I once was on the Autobahn and the old me, I used to make like my way of having fun was like doing dangerous challenges. I rented this nice
great way
car
to have fun.
and I had this like, I felt like I had to take the car as fast as it could go.
It's
And
what they
like,
built the Autobahn for, right?
I never said, no, I'm here, let's do it. And I remember like trying to get the speedometer all the way, just that last little bit, and it didn't want to go. And I'm holding it there, and I'm like, come on, come on. And while I'm doing that, my organism is very stressed. Like I mean, I know it's not like life or death. This is high
I
speed.
mean,
And I'm doing this thing I learned from the freediving instructor course of like I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds of just exhale. Well, it knows. And by doing that, I'm keeping my organism so chilled. So when everything else is stressful, I can
huh.
be like relaxed. And when everything is dangerous, I can feel playful.
Okay, so if you need to feel less stressed, you do more breathing out time
Hmm.
wise. So,
And you got to look at like what your organism is telling the nervous system. So you got to go through like a checklist. What's my body language like? Is it closed? Is it open?
okay,
Closed is a
okay,
threat. Open, it's everything's good. What's my
okay.
breathing like? You got to breathe really deep and long. Exhaling helps a lot, but the idea of just breathing deep and long.
You also have to, because that was actually the other thing I was gonna say too, is like if you're in this really stressful situation and then you try and do really long exhales, like could you potentially pass out by accident?
Uh,
Or Is that like not really that big a risk?
It shouldn't go to the point where you're uncomfortable, because if it's getting uncomfortable, then it's stressing you.
And you, okay, yeah, it's not gonna work anymore.
Keep it kind of in the comfort zone, and then check what your tongue is doing. When we get stressed, our tongue pushes up on the roof of our mouth.
Oh wow.
And when we're also stressed, we'll start to frown in subtle ways. And this sends a very powerful message to the nervous system that says everything is not okay.
Oh, and you kind of want to just release that frown.
Release and even tell it,
Just
do the opposite. Tell it everything is okay. It's like telling your horse everything's fine.
gotcha. Huh.
And the more you do it, the more better you feel. And then the more natural it becomes. So it's pretty fake for like 2 minutes. And you got to do it very intentionally for 2 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And then you start to have an effect on the nervous system and the brain chemistry, which produces the corresponding emotions. And it creates
Oh
the
wow.
feedback loop. You feel more relaxed, your body language opens, your physiology changes, which makes you feel even more relaxed.
Okay, okay.
Rest is a feedback loop, and relaxing is also a feedback loop.
And you can sort of teach yourself to, you're almost teaching yourself just to be relaxed in a
Yeah.
stressful situation. And
Check this out, big yogis, they only need to sleep like 1 or 2 hours a night because they
it's
always
amazing.
are so aware of their organism that they keep their organism's nervous system in a state that's basically medicinal. So they keep their
Huh.
organism's nervous system at such a relaxed, peaceful state by controlling their body language and their breathing and their nerve, like facial nerves and things, that nature's intelligence kicks in. The same thing that happens when you're sleeping, that cleaning and healing and
Mhm.
repairing and rejuvenating and deleting all the bad copies. This stuff is going on throughout the day because the organism, it's this is the way it's supposed to exist.
Mhm.
They just enhance it even more. But we need to remember that, like, in our daily life, we're drinking coffee. That stresses the nervous system.
I had 2 cups earlier today.
Our organism is our horse, our meat suit, our biorobot is designed to survive in caveman days. It
yeah.
doesn't realize that what we're looking at on TV is an illusion on a box. It thinks all that drama and violence is real life, so that's stressing us.
Yeah.
Traffic,
Yeah.
noises, and it keeps us so stressed that our nervous system keeps our physiology in a state that's basically poisonous instead of medicinal.
That's
Our
why I never feel comfortable in big cities, probably.
Mhm.
Because
The
there's a
noise, yeah.
traffic and all this stuff going on, no nature.
And check this, brother. When the organism is in this stressed state, it's programmed to survive in this like primitive environment, right? It's a dumb
Yeah.
horse. It is prioritizing short-term survival
yep.
at the
I've.
expense of long-term maintenance. So all of those processes of cleaning and healing and rejuvenating and deleting bad copies and repairing stop.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like watching out for danger, expecting like something to come and get it. So it's like prioritizing short-term survival
And like finding food and like.
and evading danger at the expense of all this long-term maintenance and
Huh.
upkeep. So that's why people who work really stressful jobs, they might make a lot of money, but they get strokes, heart disease.
Yeah.
Because they're
Yeah.
not deleting all the bad copies, they get cancer.
Yep,
It's a
it's really
poisonous
stress.
thing.
Stress really is a killer. Like my father actually died relatively young at I think it was 55 because I mean he was like at the time he was like overwhelmed with stress both from like his job was like relatively stressful and then his mom had died like my grandma like about a year earlier and he's dealing with the stress of her estate and everything and it was like all that stress came together and it was just like too much basically and it kind of it's like kind of like guided me into like I'm like super zen now and I just kind of let things out. I'm like fuck it I don't want to I don't want to fall down that trap of letting everything become so important that now I'm almost like the opposite and I'm like oh it'll work itself out everything's fine you know
Yeah. Oh, that's a good approach to like not allow the organism to get into that stressed state.
mhm
Sorry to hear about your dad. My dad is the same.
really
He's had cancer twice and now it's come back. And he's
oof
worked so hard, so driven, and he's always been super stressed. So his organism was never he was never allowing his organism's own intelligence to like kick in and repair itself and clean itself and rejuvenate itself. So you age faster, you get cancer, and then it's like,
It's tough. It's tough in this day and age. I feel like there's so much pressure put on us, like from like the media, to like kind of like compete and try and outcompete each other and do, there's just sort of all this stuff. And I don't know. I think like this sort of, well, I don't know, like depending on what you think about the afterlife can make this life more or less stressful, I guess, right? Because if you're kind of like, well, there is no afterlife, then you can kind of look at it as like, okay, like I got my one chance here, and right, and like I have to get it right because it's my one chance, right?
yeah, yeah.
But if you kind of like start to, believe or realize that, it works in a bit more complicated way, yeah, whatever, we'll get another chance.
I'll do that next time around.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe on that note, like, but maybe let's hop into like some spirituality stuff, and maybe I don't know. I'd actually be curious to know about like your spiritual journey and what the most sort of like momentous occasions along that journey were,
Um,
if that makes sense.
well, I think I think the spiritual journey is basically the journey to find the truth.
Okay, okay, I like it.
And everybody's talking about the same truth, they're just different perspectives on it.
Hmm.
And I've been quite deep into Ayurveda, which is not a spiritual path. It is ancient Indian medicine.
Okay, okay. Oh,
And
that's my misunderstanding. I had kind of, I think, conflated Ayurveda with some of the other like sort of more spiritual teachings from India.
Ayurveda is kind of like Vedanta. But Ayurveda is the root of medicine. It is, it's body, mind, and spirit. And then I've been really into not only the Indian traditional medicine and the yoga and the pranayama. I have a teacher in India, and I've spent over 3 trips there, many months at a time, to learn in the
Oh
traditional
wow.
Gurukul system as an apprentice. And it was really my swimming that opened this opportunity for me, because he saw that I looked like somebody who would be serious. So
Oh,
he took me on as an apprentice, and I lived with the doctor, the teacher, and his family. And very humble. And it's in a small city in South India. And I love Ayurveda, man. It's it's the divine science, and I also love the traditional Amazonian medicine. And I have a
hmm.
teacher in Peru, and I look at my teacher of Ayurveda and my teacher of the traditional Amazonian medicine as great examples to follow. Really highly evolved, enlightened people, and I've been on a path of learning Ayurveda and also of learning traditional Amazonian medicine, which is very interesting because a shaman doesn't teach another shaman. He guides the shaman. You have to go and do these things called dietas, and you undergo this austere process of fasting and many lifestyle restrictions. And in the jungle, you
Okay.
can't go in the sun. You can't look at fire. You can't eat food with taste. You have to fast a lot.
You can't look at fire, you
Yeah,
said.
and
Oh, very interesting.
while you're dieting this plant to get the wisdom of of the plant, and it becomes a living wisdom that you embody and carry forward. And
The
of
traditional
course,
plant here being ayahuasca.
ayahuasca is
Or
used. Of course, ayahuasca is like the most powerful medicine in the world. It's amazing. Everybody should be drinking it. It's so good for you.
do you think? I mean, ayahuasca, like, do you think it allows you to sort of see other dimensions? I guess you could say is like a crude way to put it.
Ayahuasca is not only a medicine, but it's also like the big guru. It'll show you things. It'll teach you things that you maybe, depending on your level, are you ready to receive this type of wisdom? Do you have the capacity to
Hmm.
understand that?
I feel close. Like I'm actually still like a little apprehensive about taking that step, but I can kind of tell like I'm very close. My sort of like I guess like my vessel you could say, or I think what has I've been like kind of working on repairing it through this like asceticism type stuff you've been mentioning.
Yeah, I have drunk a lot of ayahuasca and I want to keep drinking it as long as I live. It's amazing. I
Do you
love ayahuasca. I
very
will do it.
regularly for you? Is this like a daily thing for you?
No, I have a teacher in Peru. I'm supposed to go there this month, but the borders are closed.
Hmm.
And
So this is a thing you go on retreat and do
I
the
go
ritual and
twice a year, and I'd go for like I do dieta, which usually involves 6 ceremonies, and it's working with a specific plant. So I wanted to get deeper.
hmm
So to get deeper, I had to go and diet different plants. So the first plant was. Are you guys interested in this? I don't know. It's kind of esoteric.
oh yeah, hit me definitely.
So the first one I did, it's like a curriculum. So you go to like grade one, then grade two, grade three, and there are different plants that deal with different types of wisdom. So the first one was called Camelonga, and it's a plant that's got a masculine seed and a feminine seed in a pod. And then if you open the seed up, part of it is deadly poison, and part of it is divine medicine. And it's
Okay.
all about balance. It's all about like harmonizing these opposites, and like learning to feel as much as you think, logic and intuition, your masculine side, your feminine side, your horse and your rider, your
hmm
organism and soul at the deepest level. And it made me realize so many things. Like I was very imbalanced before. Like the hard power of masculinity.
hmm
Like Samson and Hercules. No man could defeat these guys. But you know what their downfall was?
hmm.
Soft power, manipulation from women. They couldn't see that.
The sirens of Titan,
Yeah, they were
you'd
so
say.
blinded because they were operating all on hard power. That was the only way they thought, like um,
Hmm.
dominance and assertion. They
hmm
couldn't see that manipulation. And then when I dieted Camelong, all of a sudden I became aware of like ways that I was manipulated by women, soft power.
Oh
I could see
wow.
both sides and how like soft power is wielded. And I couldn't see that, really understand that before. And that's where I got the idea, the metaphor of the rider and the horse from. Well,
That's
anyway, then
fascinating. Yeah.
then it got deeper. We did one that the next one. My teacher said many people are afraid of this plant, but he said it's his favorite, and that made me a little nervous.
Yeah, that's a fun way to start out a trip. Yeah,
And
this one scares a lot of people.
this is a few weeks. This is going to take a month. It takes a month,
Wow.
and that was for courage and discipline and preparedness and self-love, where you actually want what's good for you and you don't want what's bad for you. Because when you're sick, you don't think in a healthy way. You want what's bad for you, which makes
Yeah.
you sicker, which makes you want more of what's bad for you. If you
Absolutely.
want poison, that's like you
Absolutely.
start smoking crack.
That's
Crack is going to make you sick. You're going to want more poison, more crack.
absolutely. I'm all too familiar with the mind of an addict. You could
Yeah, and
say
you get in
it's
these
it's
feedback loops
yeah.
where as you get sicker, you have less willpower. You're
hmm
less self-aware. You're just getting spiraling down into
you've
darkness.
like completely reinforced all the pathways down to your baser
Mhm.
self, and you're like just yeah, like at one point in my life, like basically the only thing that was like important was like, are you gonna have enough oxys for the month, or for the next week or so? Are you gonna have enough of the drug you need to survive, right? And then eventually, thank God I got out of that
Oh
cycle. But
yeah,
it's
thank goodness.
yeah, and actually, what I thought is like super fascinating is when I finally was able to quit was the first time I experienced like a deep spiritual connection and could kind of like feel, but like I think like in part of it was like I had this chemical was maybe like cutting off some sort of spiritual connection for so long that like then when I was finally back and able to connect, it was like overwhelming
Wow.
because I hadn't had it for so long, and I was like, what's going on? This is so weird.
Well, would you be interested to know, like, from a big picture, like Amazonian shamanistic and Ayurveda? Amazonian shamanism and Ayurveda are both the same divine science,
Okay.
both talking about the same stuff. Would you be interested to understand how that process works?
Oh, 100%.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so we need to start to look at medicine from a very zoomed out perspective and start to look at the body and the mind and spirit are not really separate.
Mhm.
Your spirit, your energy, you get weak, or you can be really strong. And if you're weak, your mind is easily tempted.
Mhm.
And
Been there.
when you're sick, you don't think properly, which makes you want what's bad for you, which makes you more sick. Now, if we look at nature, anything in nature that is healthy is so strong. Like a healthy gazelle that knows it's healthy inside,
Mm.
knows it's healthy. It
Mhm.
exudes this confidence, this life energy, this power. And it can eat grass. A healthy gazelle could eat grass right in front of the lion. And the lion knows that that gazelle is healthy and it knows that it better not even try to chase it because it'll only waste its energy.
Mm. Okay.
So that
Okay. Yep.
lion actually knows it has to creep around in the grass and look for one that is sick and tired and old.
Okay.
When you're healthy, anything in nature that is healthy is so strong. I'm talking about strong in body, mind, and spirit. Like it knows when you're really healthy on a deep level, you know that whatever comes at you, you got it. You
Yeah.
deal with it because you're so strong.
Okay.
And when you're healthy, you think in healthy ways. So, this concept of health from a holistic, shamanistic perspective, health is synonymous with strength. It is willpower, power. It is self awareness. It is like your situational awareness. You're more conscious when you're more healthy,
Okay. Okay.
more creative. You have more drive. You get stuff done. You
I
you guarantee the future.
I
You know, you
feel like
guarantee that it's going to be okay.
sometimes I have like really good willpower, and some days I feel like not so much.
We've got to look at what type of input you're putting into your life as a whole, because there are medicines that make you stronger, and there are poisons that make you weaker.
Mhm.
So, like as its essence, health is strength. It's life energy in its totality. It's victory energy. And
Okay.
sickness, as you get more sick in body and mind and spirit, you get weaker. Your willpower is weaker. Your self awareness decreases. You become less aware that you're even sick. Your
Okay.
situational awareness goes down. You're becoming more of an animal. You're becoming less conscious. You're more just running on instinct
I've
and
definitely
reacting
I
to the
know the
environment.
feeling, like I know the feeling where I'm like, oh, like I'm letting my animal self take over and do, but like I'm not so great sometimes at like taking back control.
I'll share you with you. I'll get to that how we can do that.
Okay.
So as you're getting more sick, you're getting weaker, you're getting less aware that you are sick. You're just getting caught
Hmm.
up. You're just like an animal. You're becoming an animal seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And with that, sickness is defeat. You're lazy. You're passive. And with that sickness, basically, it's death energy. It is slavery in its totality. It's the opposite of the victory hero energy of life. Now, if we look at our life in terms of health and sickness, we need to look at everything that we're consuming, the media we're listening to, the type of music we're listening to, the relationships we have, the type of
Hmm.
food we eat, this environment we situate ourselves in, and everything can be medicinal, which makes us more strong, more healthy, more life energy, more power, more creativity, more consciousness. Or it can be poisonous, which pulls us down, which makes us more sick and more weak and more passive and more unconsciously just instinctually driven. So it's a feedback loop. When we're healthy, we want what's good for us, which makes us more healthy and more strong and more powerful and more conscious.
Hmm.
When we're sick, we want poison, which makes us
Yep.
sicker, which makes us more unhealthy, more of a slave, more passive, more defeated, more death. So
Yep.
it's a downward spiral or an upward spiral. And if you really want to attain self mastery or mastery, have the best life possible, you got to go through your life and say, well, what is medicinal? Oh,
Hmm.
and what is poisonous? And very often when we're sick, we don't realize we're sick. Only when we get to the point where we're a little more healthy, we realize, holy shit, I used to be so sick. Never want
Hmm.
to do that again. That was bad for me.
I'm
So
coming
as we
to
go through,
realize a lot of that about the stuff I used to either watch or eat, and it's just I'm
oh,
like, wow, it was just a hot mess 2 years ago.
Man, and then they say that's a good thing though. In They say that a true healer is someone who has first healed themselves.
Mm,
Like
makes
you have to be
sense.
strong enough to go into the darkness and the sickness and then pull yourself out. And only when you've pulled yourself out, you understand what sickness really is. And
Yes.
then you understand what health. And then you can consciously choose, be like, I don't want that, that's bad for me. I want this, that's good for me. And then you can go to other people and you can see that they're in a downward spiral.
Mhm.
You can
Because
help people
so many people I know IRL are absolutely in that spiral
and you can help
and
people
stuff.
reverse the spiral because you
Yeah.
understand how it's all a feedback loop and it accelerates down into just destruction
Mhm.
of destruction of your spirits. I mean, the stakes
Yeah.
are really high.
It is that so how much of like reincarnation stuff are you in tune with, or do you think that's what do you think of that sort of the samsara cycle?
You know, personally, I agree with it 100%.
So it's
Um,
this sort of you're talking about the downward spiral, the destruction. Is that sort of the negative path of reincarnation then?
if you want to look at it from a Judeo-Christian Abrahamic perspective, that's a hell. And as you get
Mhm.
sick, you do more bad stuff. You create more bad karma,
Mhm.
which
Okay.
pulls you further and further down. And whatever energy you're in, that feedback loop will just continue the next time around. The death is not an end, it's just a
Mm.
change of form. You're just changing the form.
And then in your
And,
next form you end up getting hit with repercussions of all this stuff that you did in previous lives, the karma you've built up.
and Ayurveda says there are like well, the types of karma that carries forward. There's like imagine if this is a video game, you have like a bar that is golden when it's 100%, green around 80, 90%, yellow 50, 60, and then it gets down into the red. So
Okay.
imagine like we come in with a certain amount from last time. Maybe
Mm.
you come in at like 90%, you're born into like a wealthy family, you have a good, healthy organism, you get it all exposed to all the right teachings and schoolings, and it keeps your upward spiral really going.
Hmm.
Let's
Okay.
say you come in and something tempts you and you find that perfect weakness in you, and some woman or some relationship starts to pull you down, and you lose like 80, 89, 88, 87, 86, 85. And now when you do stump your toe, instead of just a little scratch, you like break the toe. Or
Oof.
or like instead of getting a little cough, you get like a pneumonia. And your like karma gets worse. So there's the karma you have coming in, and then there's the karma you accumulate while you're in this round. So there's
Hmm.
those two types of. So if you come in with real bad karma, but you work really hard to get good karma, you do all kinds of practices and drink a lot of ayahuasca and you do a lot of yoga or whatever, you raise it up. And
Hmm.
you, as you raise it up, as you get more healthy, it's life energy in its totality. This is health. This is consciousness. You're closer to the divine.
Mhm.
You're more your soul, and you're less of your unconscious animal organism. But as you get further and further down, you get into more of your unconscious animal organism, and it drives you. Like the Amazonians, they say, like, the Greeks have the concept of the underworld, Hades. Well, they also talk about how, like, if you're bad, your soul will get cast down into the underworld,
Mhm.
just lose awareness of everything, and you'll just be an animal man.
Huh. I've never thought about it in the sense that you put it with like a level of awareness or consciousness, and
As
that
you get,
like as you descend, like I can remember from like my addiction days, like as I descend further and further, I'm more just less of the time is just time is flying by, and I'm just give me the pills kind of.
that's like what the Tibetans would call like if you descend down into the hungry ghost level,
The hungry ghost, it's a great name for it.
and and this idea of health. As you get more healthy, you get more aware of who you really are, of your true nature,
Mhm.
and as you get more sick, you get more into the animal. And as you get really healthy, then you realize fully the self-realization, and then you understand. Oh, I'm my jiva, I'm my atman, I'm my soul. I'll just
Yes.
through into the next round, no big deal.
Yeah, we go
Deep,
round and round, right?
deep into the animal, then you literally die because you're totally identified with this temporary organism.
Yeah. So let me ask you, going back to the self-realization of the climbing of health, like I've I've experienced this I think like two times in my life now, and it's generally coincided with periods of like sort of like when I'm attempting to achieve ego death, if you're
Mhm.
familiar with that term.
Yes,
It does
yes,
does it make sense that these line up? Sort of.
absolutely.
Okay. I'm trying to, sort of synthesize something I read over here with something I read, from hundreds of years earlier and trying to see, right, what the modern terms are. I guess like what I'd be curious to ask you about is like it, how much of your experience after you go through ego death do you remember? Because I take back very little visually. I sometimes like will write stuff down. I want to scribble for days. Sort of remember. But like, how much do you take back?
Well, the part of you that wants to take it back is not there anymore. The part of you that feels it needs to
Huh.
take it back is not there.
Okay.
Part of you that's left always knows this. It remembers itself. Like I don't, you know, it doesn't
Interesting.
need to take anything back. And I think that if you do these things, they can unlock levels. Like from a yogic perspective, they can start to like, energy wants to move up into these higher chakras, higher forms of expression, and that non-duality, that absolute perfect love and being perfectly loved of the true mystical experience of communing in the divine and experiencing eternity in eternity.
Hmm.
That will be, I think, I don't know, I'm not an expert, but I would say that sounds like blasting through the crown chakra and having that opening
Yeah,
up.
that's what it sounds like. And one of the reasons that I wanted to ask you sort of about like what you recall is I've been listening to this rabbi a lot. His name's Rabbi Alon Anava, and he's actually he talks about quite a lot of things, but one of the things he's mentions repeatedly is about his near-death experiences where he's like sort of traveled, sort of gone through this ego death, gone to the other side, and it was sort of like his first time he went ego death. He kind of talks about like if you want to bring a memory of the experience back, you kind of have to do this like atonement sort of. It's like the ascetism thing and sort of gain control over your baser impulse and sort of like send right good energy out into the world kind of. And he sort of suggests that if you do these things, then you can kind of go, over to the other side and sort of like come back with, a bit clearer of a memory, I guess, of it, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yes. I equate that with as we get more healthy, our dreams, instead of our dreams being communication, sorry, instead of our dreams being confusion, our dreams become really significant. And it's sort of like your astral body, your the spirit world, as they say, and you're interacting with all these aspects of yourself and growing and teaching yourself and learning and fighting different dark parts of yourself. And you're growing spiritually through your dreams in this very transcendental, powerful experiences that you have every night.
Dreams
And,
are dreams are something I've been thinking about a lot lately.
but as you get
Um,
more healthy, you retain all those experiences into your daily life. You're just more clear. As you
mm,
get more, as you're sick, it's just confusion and you don't remember what's happening. So maybe
okay.
it's maybe that's similar to what the rabbi is saying.
I think that is similar, and it makes sense too because it's like the dream state compared to the death state is like, well, in both instances, like your awareness, your consciousness is like not here, right? So they're comparable in a sense. I mean, in a sense, every time you go to sleep, like your consciousness, I mean, dies. I mean, it goes off
And
somewhere.
think about it, like every what is death? Death is letting go of the physical body. Well, we do that every night, and
Yeah,
every morning we're kind of reborn back into this organism.
yeah.
They say there's
It's
three
kind of
stages.
miraculous.
There's
So we get to come back.
yeah, deep restful sleep where it is just you don't remember anything because there's no part of you left to remember. You are the totality. You're back. Then there's dream
Hmm.
state. This is the mind. This is the subtle body, the astral body, as you call it. Then there's a waking state, which is the organism is active again.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And this
And,
this sort of in between one, those where you're sort of accessing the spiritual realm or
mhm.
something. Um.
Ayurveda says that the mind and the Atman and the Jiva, the mind and the soul, the witness, the pure consciousness, and the mind carry forward. And with that comes what they call samskaras, like subtle traits that you've picked up.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even Ayurveda even says that at the moment the fetus's heart starts beating. This is in the Charaka Samhita. Charaka was a great sage. He wrote this like big shaman book called the Charaka Samhita. And it's thousands of years old and it's translated from Sanskrit. And he says at the moment the fetus's heart starts beating, it's called a time for the mother of two minds. The mother is of two minds. And she starts to have like cravings.
Hmm.
Like my teacher of Ayurveda, Dr. Harry, he said that when his wife was pregnant with their first child, all of a sudden she started to crave noodles.
And those
And
are potentially the cravings of the second mind.
yes, and he said that she had eaten noodles before. To this day, their son Devan loves noodles. It
That's
is
wild.
the second mind and like the tendencies of the mind, and it is the attachment of the mind to these things in the world that keeps bringing it back.
Okay, okay. So actually on that note, I want to ask you a question from one of my friends here. My buddy Bubs, he wants to know about your diet and sort of like what sort of stuff do you generally eat?
All right, I'll give you a little background. So I used to be a professional athlete, and the stakes were really high, and I was always trying to recover as fast as possible, just trying to be as healthy as possible because I understood that the more healthy I was, the faster or better I'd be able to perform. So I had a very objective way of measuring my health. Like I could eat different foods for a while and then see if I actually had more energy. Was I stronger in the gym? Was I swimming faster? So it always was running like my personal science experiment, just trying to
Mhm.
like figure out how to optimize my health. And then I started to get into Ayurveda when I retired from sport, and I found in it an operating manual for having a Homo sapien organism. What to feed it, when to
Mm.
feed it, when to put it to bed, when to wake it up, when to do this, when to do that, just for like maximum vitality.
You said
And
you found that after. I
after,
bet
after,
you wish you found it beforehand, huh?
and it it made me rethink what I consider to be like the idea of old age. We see old people and we think that's going to be us when we're 80, 75. We are looking at people who, out of ignorance, just poisoned and punished their organisms for decades.
Mhm.
And
I
that's
did the
the.
same. I did the same. I'm like it's sad to admit, but that's where I was.
But if we take care of our organism, brother, our organism is not supposed to have like this peak and this rapid decline. It's supposed to have this
Mm.
like long plateau. And if you really understand how to take care of it, which is what Ayurveda is all about, then you can be really old and have a lot of vitality, like a lion. A lion is an organism that nothing really kills a lion, it dies of old age. And an
Huh.
old lion is still usually strong enough to hunt and kill up
Wow.
until on the weekend it dies.
Wow. And I mean that makes sense too. I see plenty of older dudes like, going to the gym or whatever and I'm like, man, my first thought is like when I'm 60, I hope I like am jacked like you. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, shit, I'm 35. I wish I was just like I'm 30 I wish I was jacked like you now. I'm 35.
But yeah, a big part of this is how to feed this organism. Like, and we need to understand that anything that we're not digesting becomes a poison for us.
Hmm.
You want to gain muscle, you think, oh, I need to lift weights, eat as much as I can eat every meal. I used to be really skinny growing up, and I always felt like I had to just eat to like grow.
Oh, wow, okay.
When you overeat, you really poison your organism because it's not how much you eat that counts, it's how much you digest. So you want to make sure
Hmm.
that you're not eating more than you have the capacity to digest. More than you more like you don't put more food in than you can make the enzymes to digest it and the acid to break it down. So one of the main things is that you got to consider your food like putting wood on a fire. If I put too much wood on the fire, I smother the flame. It can't get oxygen. The flame gets weak.
Okay.
So as you eat too much food, your metabolism will get like suppressed. And
Oh,
a
wow.
weaker metabolism, if you put that same amount of wood on again a few hours later, it hasn't burned up all the old wood and it's even more smothered. So the metabolism gets even weaker.
Okay.
It's easier to gain weight and your metabolism is getting weaker. You're getting fatter at a faster and faster rate by eating the same amount of food.
Wow. Okay.
If you if you're very aware of how much you're putting in and how your food is digesting, you'll eat like if you have a good appetite, eat 3/4 of a stomach and then add a little bit of warm liquid. If you don't have a good appetite, like a normal person, if you're very active, 3/4 of a stomach. If you're a regular person, Ayurveda says half a stomach of food, a quarter stomach of warm liquid, and a quarter stomach of space to allow
Okay.
everything to move. So the main thing is you want to like,
Specifically warm liquid, they
yeah,
mention.
you never want to drink cold drinks.
Okay. I had been doing like like room temperature kind
Room
of.
temperature is okay, but ideally hot or warm.
Okay.
Breaks up mucus in the body and it puts like fire in your fire. It's making your core temperature warmer. It's when you put cold drinks, the body wants to protect itself from the cold, so it closes up all the channels. Like when you put your hand in ice water.
Oh.
So then, if you're eating a big meal and you have a cold drink, you're not able to make as much acid because you're
Oh.
shunting everything off to
Is
protect
closing
it.
off the mechanism for the digestion.
Yeah, so it's going to sit in your tummy, your stomach for
Wow.
half an hour. Then it's going to flow into your intestine, having not been cooked by the acid, and then ferment, and you get a bunch of gas and weak digestion. And instead of
Yeah.
absorbing like almost all of the nutrients in the food the way it's supposed to be, you'll absorb like 30% or less. So your body will
Wow.
be starving in this way. And what you're not absorbing becomes poison. It's going to be mucus that clogs you up,
Mhm.
undigested metabolic waste in your actual little cells. And then the cytoplasm will be full of all this undigested metabolic waste, goop that
Oh,
starts to
wow.
and poison you.
And
So
let me ask you, so one of the things I've been getting into a lot lately is like fasting and extended fasting. I assume you would tell me that
fasting,
fasting is a good way to get this stuff out of my
yeah,
cells, right?
fasting is like you're gonna stop putting wood on the fire and allow the fire to like gradually start to burn up more of the wood so it gets more oxygen and it burns up more of the wood. So instead of having a bunch of charred black wood, when the fire is really
Mm,
strong, it just burns it all totally into smoke. But fasting, here's the catch. If you do too much fasting, Ayurveda says like more than 3 days is detrimental.
mhm.
Then you're telling the body's got its own intelligence. You're telling it, hey, food is really scarce. Slow down
Gotcha.
all the processes and
Like
worry about
then you
survival.
start that's so that
Don't
makes sense. I kind of like my sort of peak level of like my peak level of sort of like mental focus is kind of when I'm like 18 hours into a
mm,
fast and extending for 2 or 3 days. Like I have an incredible amount of energy. I could literally just not sleep.
mm.
But then as you see, it starts to take a toll, and it's like now all I can think about is food, or I just start to languish.
So these ancient Indian yogis, like the guys who wrote these Ayurvedic sacred texts, they were so highly conscious and so enlightened and aware of the organism that they understood it. So you one of the main tenets of it is keeping your organism balanced, but other main tenet is taking care of the fire. And it's fire on a subtle level, which is
Mm.
expressed as metabolism, digestion, immunity. It's also expressed as our intellect, which is why when you fast after 18 hours, you feel really sharp.
Oh wow, okay.
It's your brain chemistry. Your brain cells are getting nice and clean, functioning
Yeah.
properly. And it's also emotions too. It's like courage and enthusiasm are expressions of this internal fire. So, like a big part of it is taking care of your fire, which means you don't want to overeat, you don't want to drink cold drinks. Um, and then you want to take cold showers instead of hot showers.
I wanted to ask you about that actually.
Hot shower is such an unnatural thing. Our ancestors,
Yeah.
our ancestors comes from Northern Europe, probably, and it was cold there all the time. So the organism was adapted to deal with this cold with a very strong metabolism. But when you go in a hot shower, you're going against your nature, which causes problems. Anytime you go against your nature, you cause problems.
What do you
And you're
think of this sort of like maybe you get into a sauna and then you go into an ice bath, or like maybe you just take a hot shower and then you rinse off cold?
um, sauna does have benefits because there are things that happen to the body when inside the body gets really, really hot like that for a while. Like the metabolism speeds up, all the processes speed up.
Okay.
But you can, by cultivating your fire, you can get those effects all the time in a sustainable way. Because the downside of the sauna is for a while after your metabolism is weak, you feel foggy, you feel weak, so
Mm.
digestion is weak, your immunity is kind of weakened.
I actually sometimes when I get out of a hot tub I nearly faint.
Yeah, and if you go
100%.
go in a cold shower, has the opposite effect, or a cold swim. You're telling the organism, oh my gosh, my environment is going to kill me. I need to adapt to this environment. I need to turn my internal fire up. So your body's
Mm.
intelligence sets the fire and gets it going, and you rev up your metabolism. So your food makes it through all the different tissues, all the way down to reproductive level, and then it gets processed. And the end result of your food is your mind. It's your aura. It's your vibe. It's so the
Okay.
stronger the
Okay.
metabolism, the more you're able to process food from a gross level to a subtle level. Your immunity is better. You're not going to get sick. Your vitality
Yeah.
with enthusiasm for life from the fire. Um,
I assume like sun you use sun or I mean I guess I want to know like what role you think sunlight plays into all of this and
Sunlight is life energy in its purest form. Like you can, if you can open up to the sun and truly receive it, it's so much more than just light. It is like life energy. It is vitality. It I I'm in this process in my life right now where I'm deepening my connection to the sun.
that's amazing. Me too actually. The last like literally for like the last 2 weeks every day I will like go out and just like I actually try and sun gaze as well and let the sun directly into my eyes or just close the lids and sort of just try and just absorb it just like come on in, give me your energy almost.
Yeah, me too. I do a lot of sun salutations. I do this sun
What's
pranayama.
that?
Sun salutations is like a sequence of moves. It's kind of its own thing. It's not really yoga, but it's incorporated into yoga. You go through these sequence of moves that really like open up and energize your body, and you're
Hmm.
facing the sun. And there's a mantra you can use for the sun,
Oh
and
wow.
it enlivens you, and it's like very powerful medicine. And there's
That's awesome.
pranayama. Pranayama is this whole bunch of breathing exercises that manipulate prana in the body, and it prana flows on these like meridians, like acupuncture uses
What
targets these meridians of chi. Well, pranayama moves that chi around and uses it to heal and clean and as a medicine to help us get stronger and higher and more conscious and more willpower and closer to the divine.
Okay. Can you try and define prana a little bit? It's a
Prana
term I'm not too.
is like chi. It is a life force. And
Okay.
it's the physical level, you might say that's like oxygen. Oxygen is circulating through your body and processes are happening in your body. And prana is like the energy behind all of that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you
Um.
get it from food, you get it from the sun, you get it from really fresh air. But if you eat
Hmm,
food that comes from a can, there's no prana. If you eat
it's yeah.
dead meat, there's no prana. If you so if you eat a bunch of really dead food, you're not only feeding your body, you're feeding your mind. And if your food has no life energy, no prana in it, you start to get lazy and you get depressed and your world becomes a darker
Hmm.
place. You lose enthusiasm, you lose a
Cause
life
cause
energy.
you're almost eating these toxins, these like organisms that had bad lives almost.
Well, that's
Is
another
that
thing
part
that
of it?
we can get into. But like you eating things from a can, eating processed food, frozen food, it's got no
Mm.
more prana in it. And on a subtle level, so your
Mm.
mind is not energized anymore. Your mind is like dragging and depressed. Everything is kind of gray. But if you eat a lot of healthy, energized food, you are what you eat. You become energized. Your vibration raises.
Right, right, okay.
And
Um,
Ayurveda goes through like Amazonian medicine as well, and they talk about like your food is the biggest input into the system.
mhm.
Are what you eat, and the best food is the best medicine, and the best medicine is the best food.
It
So you
goes hand in hand.
have to be
Abs-
really intentional about what you eat. So like and it classifies food as there's food that lifts you up and food that pulls you down, and you want to avoid the food that pulls you down, like processed food,
Mhm,
alcohol,
mhm.
uh, dead like meat. Meat is called tamasic. It pulls you down. um,
Okay.
and the Amazonians will even say like Amazonian medicine, like don't eat pork because a pork is an animal that just eats anything, and that by incorporating that energy into your energy,
Huh.
you become more susceptible to any kind of temptation.
That's
You
fascinating because it's such like that corollary is so close to kosher laws as well, where
yeah.
like right like pork is forbidden and as well is like the creatures like on the seafloor like lobsters and crabs and they'll scavenge, they just eat anything.
Ayurveda says those type of scavengers seafood is the worst type of seafood to eat. There's a chapter that
Wow.
you could eat this. This is the best. This avoid this. This is the worst.
It's so delicious though.
No. As you get more healthy, you'll naturally crave the things that are good for you, and you
Oh,
really just like resistant to the things that are bad for you. So like, I don't want to eat meat anymore. I used to be doing it.
amazing.
I can't eat. I don't want to eat shellfish anymore. Like I don't want those things anymore.
Amazing. I hope I'm there soon because there's still I've been trying to be pretty strict about my kosher laws and stuff and there's still like a temptation here and there to slip up and eat some random crab or
Like those were
lobster or whatever.
ancient, really conscious guys who understood how like fish and milk, but not good combination, or like
Mm.
kosher you can't eat the mother and the baby.
Mhm. Mhm.
The milk,
It's almost like an affront to their spiritual energy that you would like
it's like an
combine
abomination.
them,
Yeah.
right?
And
Um
when you eat meat, you don't only take in like protein. You are eating the essence. You're eating an animal, and the more complex the animal is, the more emotion and information comes in that animal. So let's say
hmm.
you have like a bunch of lamb rack. That lamb was probably so stressed and feeling sorry for itself for being kept in the slaughterhouse
In
cage
these
before.
modern factory farms, it's reprehensible
So
that
like,
there's like mammals in there. Like mammals are like as complicated as us, if
and
not more so, and we're just like, ah, get in the cage, we're gonna eat you later. Like, come on.
with that comes you're going to get a whole bunch of adrenaline in the meat. You're going to get a whole bunch
Because
of
they're always
cortisol,
stressed.
and you're going to put that in your body. It's going to get in your blood. It's going to get in your brain chemistry, and then all of a sudden you're going to be stressed and feeling sorry for yourself. And yesterday you weren't stressed, you weren't feeling sorry for yourself, and now ate that, and then today all of a sudden you're just looking for things to worry about. You're just
Wow.
looking, and what happened? The biggest input into that system was the food.
Yeah.
Took on all this energy of this animal. Like I know kosher and halal and these things, they want you to cut the throat to bleed it right away. So the meat isn't contaminated.
Yeah. I think part of it too might be like, well, at least this is kind of how I interpret it, is that like part of it's about giving the animal like a quick death.
Mhm.
And so that like okay, like heads up, like and like this is kind of how I would envision it. Like if I did have a farm, it's like like take the animal aside, have a little talk with it. Like this is the deal. Like you only get like you're old, you're only gonna live for another couple of years anyways. Like we're gonna do it quick. And then I don't even necessarily know if I would really go there if I don't even really know if I could eat an animal if I look at it in its eyes, but I do know, like, if I can't bear to eat it after that, like, I shouldn't be eating it,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Like the Hindus have an interesting take on it. They're like, they see all life as like our cousins and brothers. And it's like your parents went out and you got hungry and you have a little retarded brother and you decided to eat your brother.
It's,
When
it's,
the
it makes me laugh, but it seems kind of fucked up.
fridge was full of food. You didn't have to eat him. You could have eaten beef and rice and got the same amount of protein and like
Yeah.
grains and legumes. And you will be more healthy because there's different classifications of food. Remember, some food lifts us up, some food pulls us down, and the meat is food that pulls us down. But Ayurveda makes exceptions. They use meat sometimes as medicine. It,
Hmm.
um, the benefit is worth the cost.
Okay, like if you're like really weak or something,
Like you can
or
use bone soup for like really nourishing, like your bones. If you have problems with that,
okay.
and when I was reading this classical text, because that's part of what I would do, we would read these classical texts and talk about them. Very interesting thing I discovered that peacock, Ayurveda says that first of all, don't eat meat, but if you need to use it as medicine, this is really good medicine, can be really good medicine. Peacock is really,
Really?
and if you look at a peacock, it's a competition of males between them who has the best metabolism because they need to have such an efficient, powerful metabolism that will allow them to have so much extra energy left over to make huge plumage.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Ones who have the best
Hmm.
metabolism possible are able to have so much energy left over from eating the food to have huge to be able to make such expensive plumage. And it was saying that like peacock is really like can be medicinal, but I wouldn't go out and kill a peacock. You don't need to do that.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't eat. Someone asked what I eat. I don't eat meat. I try to eat organic. I eat like quinoa, grains, legumes, vegetables. I do. You drink milk, organic milk. I use ghee a lot. I take a bunch of herbs that really strengthen and nourish my body.
Huh. What is I'm guessing mushrooms as well.
Mushrooms are
Eating mushrooms.
classified as a decomposer. They're classified as tamasic. So a little bit is okay, but you don't want to be eating too much mushrooms because that will pull you down.
Oh, okay, but probably like I'm guessing like a lack of mushrooms, it might serve like a pretty important role in your whole
Mhm.
balance. So I should probably
Yeah,
get some.
if you want to be like a yogi's diet, which is all about getting higher and higher and more healthy, you wouldn't eat meat, you wouldn't eat mushrooms, you wouldn't eat garlic, which is interesting because there's a European
Oh.
legend of not eat vampires don't want garlic.
Huh.
Garlic pulls you
So
into
you're
organ.
telling me these yogis be living forever?
Yeah, they don't want to eat organ. They live a long time. They don't want to eat garlic, and garlic it stresses your organism and
Oh wow.
it can be used as a medicine because sometimes that stress will help your organism fight off a flu or something, but you don't want to
Yeah.
be taking it all the time because it will stress your organism, stress the nervous
Okay.
system.
Huh. What about like pepper and stuff? I've eaten so much pepper and
Yeah, pepper,
mustards.
they classify that as rajasic. It's sort of like, it's good for digestion,
Okay.
good for taking out like mucus in the body. If you have too much like moisture, too much oiliness, you can use pepper and these things to kind of dry the body.
Okay.
But if it does say that they'll have the effect, like if you what you put in your body, you put in your mind. So let's say we go and eat a bunch of really spicy Mexican food, and we're going to get in our car and we're in traffic. We're going to have so much like, let's go, come on, and you're going to get so easily frustrated by not being able to go because you're in traffic. So that's kind of the essence of eating too much spicy.
Gotcha. Okay.
You're ready to go, go, go. Take action. Take immediate action, which can lead to frustration.
When you're talking about this classification, you're talking about the Ayurveda, right? And how they
Yes.
classify it.
Would you be
Okay.
interested to know more about like what that is? I don't know.
Um, I guess like yeah, one of my viewers was
Kind of a
asking like
takeaway.
maybe like a couple minutes like what yeah like where did that text come from? I guess and
So Sanskrit is this really ancient language that is the highest language. It's got the greatest vocabulary of all languages, which
huh.
allows for the greatest conceptualization of reality. They say that Sanskrit is a key that unlocks a door. And they have words for concepts that we just don't have in English. English is kind of a barbarian language of like Germanic tribes and
It's
Anglo.
an amalgamation too. It was like, oh, we'll take
Latin,
some German, we'll take some French, we'll smush it together.
but it's a language of like the physical. It's not a philosophical language like Sanskrit is.
Okay, okay.
Sanskrit allows you to have better thinking. So like English might be like Windows 98, and Sanskrit is like Mac OS X from 2100 language. And there's three really, really powerful words that we can use to describe energy. It's like talking about the quantum level. Like E equals mc squared. Einstein proved that matter and energy are interchangeable.
Mhm.
Well, Sanskrit, these words can allow you to like look at the energy behind things, like looking at the code behind the matrix.
Mm,
And
okay.
so, like Inuit people who live up in the high Arctic, they have so many words for snow, and because they
I
have the
remember
words
learning
for
that one
snow,
time.
they can see all the different types that we just can't. That's just snow. Or
Hmm.
Amazonian jungle people, they have so many words for the color green. They'll be like, this medicine comes from the tree with that color leaf. And we're like, what color leaf? It's just all green to me. Well, because Sanskrit has these words, the Ayurveda and yoga use, it allows for this ability to understand and see these things that they have concepts for.
Hmm.
And it's all about frequency of vibration. So they have a word for very low frequency of vibration, which is the vibration in nature of decay,
Hmm.
and it's called tamasic. Then a higher frequency of vibration, where energy is like coming into the system now. A lot of energy is pouring into the system. They call it rajasic,
Mhm.
rajas. When it's applied to something, it's rajasic. And when you have the highest frequency of vibration, like
It's
so high,
sattva. Is that right?
sattva, yeah,
Yes.
sattva, yeah.
Yes. These concepts they're also brought up in the Bhagavad Gita, which just been reading the last couple weeks actually.
Yeah. So if we went to the house of a tamasic person, there'd be like garbage everywhere, pests, roaches,
Oof.
there'd be chicken bones under the bed, and you'd
That's a
ask
weird
them,
place to keep chicken
yeah,
bones.
you'd ask them, hey, is your place clean? They'd be like, oh yeah, my place is clean. I cleaned it 6 months ago. It's like the energy of real unconsciousness.
I've been
And
actually like my mom struggles with like depression a fair bit, and I've been trying to instill in her mind like a healthy mind and a healthy living space and a clean living they go hand in hand like
the
one
environment can be
reinforces the other.
poison, or it can be medicine.
Mm,
Lift you up or pull you down because it's energy. It's
mhm.
tamasic energy, which will make you tamasic. That vibration of sickness and decay.
Yeah, so this
And
like middle energy, the rajas, right?
yeah, I'll get to
It's
that. And
mm,
like tamas energy, you wouldn't even know you're sick. You're just so sick you don't even understand you're sick.
mm,
Now, Rajas is interesting because it's the common energy of the West. Rajas is like
hmm.
ego energy. So if you went to the house of someone who's Rajasic, it would be this huge house that they can barely afford that's designed to impress everybody.
Like the Trump Tower or something.
Yeah, and you go inside and it's like a picture of the guy with a trophy, a picture of him with Bill Clinton, a picture of this, and it's just stuff. They just want stuff, just
Mm,
toys, stuff, accumulating stuff with an insatiable appetite.
mhm.
A tamasic or rajasic person, tamasic person wouldn't care anything about their health. They're just an unconscious animal. But a rajasic person would be trying to take every supplement they ever heard of. They'd be like getting up to go and train because their mind says they have to train. The ego says I need that 8 pack or whatever. They'd be
Mm,
doing CrossFit, and when they're 55, It's so unsustainable, then they're not even going to be able to move the furniture. And their
Huh.
knees and their back will be destroyed. It's like Rajas, as a rule, always leads to tamas. And Rajas would be like, you work so hard, you do all this crazy stuff, mind, ego, 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 you get sick, cancer. Then you go and you take Rajasic medicine, which you take a bunch of pharmaceuticals or chemotherapy or radiation treatment. And Rajas always causes tamas. So the
Hmm.
medicine is being Rajasic causes tamasic side effects. And you need medicine for the medicine, and medicine
Oh
for the medicine
wow.
for the medicine.
Yeah. Wait.
Whereas
So
a
let.
sattvic approach would be like preventative medicine. It's like you're so in tune with your organism. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
I'm getting a little bit dry. Let me get some ghee. Let me get a little coconut oil more in my diet. Or I'm getting a little too heavy and moist and I'm getting a little mucus. So let me get some ginger. Let me get some drying stuff. And you're always keeping that balance. And Ayurveda would be like sattvic medicine. Amazonian medicine is sattvic medicine. And a sattvic house would be like Japanese Zen style,
Hmm.
minimalistic,
Just what you
simplicity,
need.
is the ultimate
Clean.
sophistication.
Hmm.
If you're looking at the military, all the foot soldier guys who just run on instinct would be tamasic,
Hmm.
just told what to do. Go here, go there, get up, go to bed, polish your shoes, march, charge into the machine gun, don't even retreat. They're operating.
Yeah.
And then
Just
officers,
purely
yeah,
following orders, right? And
you
just
can't let,
which
yeah,
it can be freeing in a sense. Like if you mentally go to a place where I'm like, absolving myself of culpability and I'm just gonna do what you tell me, it's like, well, you're tricking yourself into this sort of freedom because you
yeah.
still are actually responsible for the shit you do, but
Ignorance
you're
is,
sort of like, ah, for now, they're responsible.
yeah, ignorance is bliss. Then
It's
you got the
true.
officers now. So the officers would be inherently rajasic,
Because they're in
whereas the
the in between.
foot soldiers are more unconscious, they're more instinctual. The officers have big ego, they want to get promoted. They
Mm.
want to like conquer that hill on the front so that everybody knows they were brave enough to do it. And they're going to yell and scream and get really angry and yell at all the foot soldiers and tell them if they even retreat, they're going to shoot them.
Mhm.
But let's look at the general now. General, he should be Sadvik. So you don't want to be making, he should not be making decisions based on instinct, like
Mhm.
an animal. He should not
Not
be
at
making
all.
decisions based on emotion, like from the ego. He should have the consciousness, the level of consciousness and self and situational awareness, where he understands how one little action affects the entire interconnected system as a whole. How this one action causes this reaction and this reaction and this reaction all the way around.
Mhm.
And he'll restrain and he'll take the perfect, conscious, intentional action at the perfect time to produce all the desired results. Like Sun Tzu says, the art of war.
Mhm.
If you don't know yourself and you don't know the enemy, you're already lost. Like footballs. If
Yeah.
you know yourself, I'm brave, I'm ready, I'm strong, but you don't know the enemy, maybe he's stronger. If you know yourself and you don't know the enemy, you can't win, but maybe you can't lose because you might know your weaknesses, you might know to avoid. So that would be like the officers. But the best general, if you know yourself and you know the enemy, then you can wait and wait and wait and be patient and take the perfect sattvic action at the perfect time. For
Mm.
this
And
is,
sometimes it's just a tiny little action, just
yeah, or maybe
and
it's
it ripples.
a refrain from action. Yeah, like in
Blew my
trading,
mind.
we're looking at rajas, tamas, and a good trader, if he's a tamasic trader, he's gonna FOMO and he's gonna FUD all the
Yep.
time. Like a rajasic trader might be like taking on too much risk.
Probably really actively trading too,
Yeah,
right? You're like, oh, I'm gonna eke out 2% on this swing, and
but a sattvic trader would be like, all right, like big market
it's
cycles,
like
big moves, and
hodl gang.
minimum gain, yeah, minimum loss.
That's amazing.
So
Um,
sattvic is higher consciousness, which it's higher energy, and it applies to actions, places, relationships, things. When you have the words, you can kind of recognize what's sattvic, what
mhm.
is classic, and what is tamasic. So like processed, dead, canned. At meat, that's tamasic food. Rajasic food is like spicy, really spicy food.
Mhm.
And sattvic food is like vegetarian, what Rastafarians would call Ital food, like
Hmm.
vegetarian, mild food with some medicinal herbs, some spices to help the digestion.
This is perfect because I'm going to the grocery market in a
Yeah.
couple hours, and now I know what to get. Although to
Oh,
be honest, I'm kind of was already pretty close to that, but I've been like dialing in.
oh, good, good. Remember, overeating is Rajasic, and
Mhm.
Rajas, rule of nature. Always too much Rajas causes tamas.
Okay. That's my like number one worst like if I think about like the thing like my issues with like impulse control, like overeating and just eating too much is probably like the thing I struggle with the most.
Remember, as you get more healthy, with health comes strength and willpower. So as you naturally get in the upward spiral, as you get more healthy, you have more willpower to have so much more
Mm,
self-control and restraint.
okay.
And when your organism gets more healthy, its own intelligence starts to kick in. And it will naturally tell you, like, today, I'm not hungry. And I will say, well, I'm not hungry at all, so I'm not going to eat. And then your organism will tell you maybe it wants 24 hours of fasting. Your organism will tell you, I want
Mm,
cashews, I want milk, I want coconut oil, I want avocado. Your organism is telling you, I want some of that like good kappa,
perfect.
good nourishing. Or might tell you, I want some bitter taste or leafy greens. And you can
Mm.
tune into your organism and like, what does my organism need?
You almost just ask it like, "What do you want to eat today?" You know.
You don't need to worry
See.
about like how many grams of protein am I getting. All food
Mm,
has amino acids. You don't necessarily need to get all the amino acids at the same time. You can
mhm.
get some from this, some from that, some from that, and each taste has a corresponding amino acid profile.
Yep.
So as
Yep.
long as you're getting all the tastes, which is like bitter, astringent, spicy, sour, sweet, and salt, as long as you're getting all the six tastes, your body will just have
That's
everything.
actually something else I've been focusing on a lot lately too. Is like, like I don't really like tomatoes, but I'm gonna eat them. Like just get in there, and I'll deal with it. And I'm trying to experience all the different flavor profiles, and I'm like, that's each little flavor profile. It has different right medicine in it and different sustenance elements.
Yeah,
So it's
no.
like I want to get them all right. Let me ask you a little bit. I kind of want to talk about like meditation a little bit. If you have, do you meditate regularly?
Yes.
I should ask.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any? I guess one thing to ask you: have you used a sensory deprivation tank?
You know, went through a period where I used it as a tool, and I did like I think I did three 1.5 hours or four 1.5 hours, and I did three or four 3 hour sessions. This was like
Wow,
a
3 hour
few,
session.
a few years ago. I did three or four of them,
Nice.
and I think it's very healthy to do. But at the same time, if you have your own, it would be ideal. I kind of now looking back, I'm like, well, I'm floating in everybody else's emotional gunk, and was I really feeling myself, or was I just feeling all the stuff that that water was holding from everybody?
Yeah, and just on like a physical level too, even emotions aside, it's just like a little icky.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. It was really interesting. The guy who
Hmm.
invented it, John C. Lilly.
Mhm.
Yeah, he used to do a lot of psychedelics, and he did an experiment where he was convinced he could communicate with dolphins by giving dolphins LSD and him taking LSD.
Mhm.
And he set up this whole experiment, and things got really weird. He put a woman in a like closed habitat with a
I heard
dolphin.
about
It's
this.
crazy.
they they got intimate, if I recall right.
They had to cancel the experiment. But
She's like, we were able to communicate, and the dolphin told me what he wanted.
so that was the mind behind the sensory deprivation tank.
It's fascinating. Like, I haven't tried one yet actually, but I can just tell that it will be such almost it seems like a shortcut or like a cheat code for meditation because like yeah, if you go on top of a mountain and sit there for a few hours, like your senses will start to fade out. But you just throw yourself in a tank, right? It's like bingo bango, right? All the
Ano-
senses are gone.
Another way to think about it is like think of your nervous system like a guitar string.
Okay.
All day long, it's being stimulated, strum, ding, 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 bong, 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 bong. And
Mm.
with your nervous system, of course, is your brain chemistry, is thoughts. So the more active your nervous system gets, the more active your mind gets. And the more calm your nervous system gets, the more calm your mind gets. And yoga, they say that when the breath wanders, the mind wanders. And they say that as the breath goes, the breath would be like the structural form, and the mind would be the functional form. So the breath and the mind go together, and the bridging gap between the breath and the mind is the nervous system. So long,
Mm.
slow breathing relaxes the nervous system, which relaxes the mind. Fast, short, shallow breathing stresses the nervous system, which stresses the mind. Overthinks, because the mind is like watching out for danger and everything, survival mode. So if you just sit in stillness, as like Taoists say, sit in stillness, you allow like that guitar string to stop being strummed. And after
Mm.
some time, it starts to like bleed out all that excess energy. Then when it gets finally bled out all the energy and then it gets close to stillness, it's like
And
and when
that's you were like reunited
that is
almost.
that's like that's what Zen is about. You're sitting there and letting everything just balance out the nervous system. And when the mind, like Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra, he said that the mind is like this body of water that's got all these waves sloshing around. And if you can get the body of water calm, and then the mind gets calm, it gets still empty. When the mind gets so calm, all the water gets clear and there's no more waves. And the real self-realization will like shine through as
Mm.
that essence, that inner essence, that truth that everybody's after.
Mhm.
Just from that like balancing out the nervous system, that stillness. And that's that bridge between the organism again and the horse and the rider of the horse.
Mhm. Mhm. When let me ask you, when you're approaching this moment of like the string sort of coming to a stop, when you get close to that, like when I'm sort of meditating and I get close to that, I almost start to panic. Sometimes is that an experience that you associate with that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because there's a part of you that is so attached to the mind that you're afraid of. That part is afraid that when there is no mind, there will be no you.
Okay.
And it's very easy in like ego death and these things to let go of attachment to the body. It's very difficult to let go of attachment to the mind, to
Mhm.
realize that you're not actually the mind. And there's that part that it's like you're getting close to the abyss.
Mhm.
And what is Nietzsche says, when you look into the abyss looks into you, and it's like oh, and you can shy away from it. But with
Yeah.
ayahuasca, for example, well, depending on the shaman, now there are many pretenders out there, and they dress up in feathers, and it's very popular in the West for everybody to go on their like um, ayahuasca retreat, and
Mhm.
99% of people go to like these spin cycle centers where they take in 16, 15 people, they give
Mhm.
them an ayahuasca experience and they spit them out.
Okay.
And yeah, they see some stuff, they have some profound experience because ayahuasca is an amazing medicine,
Mhm.
but they're not working with a real master. And the real master will not only he is as medicine, he's medicine as well as the ayahuasca is medicine, and he'll guide it. He can take you on something like an initiatory experience with the right
Okay.
songs and the right, and it'll
He
bring you,
knows how to guide you
yeah,
into the
and
journey.
he might bring you to that edge where you're on the razor's edge with death for hours.
It felt like last time I had ego death, I was 100% certain I was gonna die. I
Yeah,
said farewell to my friends. They were on the phone. I was like, guys, it's been fun. Don't worry, everything's good, but I'm pretty sure I'm dying.
you're on the razor's edge. But there is that something that happens if you can break through that edge and really like have that like courage. Like, do you know the energy of this is something like, you know, the Mayans used to play that ball game.
Mm,
They had, like only the winning team would have to play this ball game with a heavy balls like 40 pounds and hit it through this loop on a wall, and they have to
mhm.
throw their body down against the ground so the ball's never allowed to touch the ground. And then
Okay.
winning team, the winning team, one by one, as the prize, would have to climb the stairs of those huge pyramids, you know, one stair at a time, one stair at a time, up, up, with perfect hero energy, perfect courage. Perfection is divine, you know? So to get to the top and then lie on top of this rock, and they would like cut out, cut the top of the diaphragm, reach in, rip the heart out, and put it on a burning fire under the sun.
This is what they did to the victor.
Victors,
Wow, that's okay. First off, I don't even want to know what happened to the loser.
but the losers, they were okay. Nothing happened to them.
Oh wow.
So,
That's amazing. What a bizarre culture that we look at now and think that's so bizarre,
so
but it's
I,
like if you understand their perspective, it's not, I guess.
so you know how yogis are in Himalayas, like lifetime after lifetime, working towards like leaving samsara.
Mhm. Mhm.
That was one path, and these heroes, that was another path, but a path of like courage, I think. And
Wow.
when you want to look over that abyss into the abyss, it's kind of the same energy as climbing up that pyramid.
Oh, you have to like not be afraid to die.
You gotta like go for it, and then you realize that, oh shoot, it's a transition, and then you let go of the mind, and you realize you're not the mind.
Yeah.
um, the
And
death
then
is just
somehow you get yoinked back here,
it's a change of form.
right? I don't even remember like the experience after I had that ego death recently. I don't even really remember how I got back here, but
It's
at some point I
5-MeO
woke up, I
DMT.
guess. What's that?
Is this 5-MeO DMT?
It was actually during a ketamine transfusion
Oh, I don't
therapy, yeah.
know.
Um, but it was yeah, it was quite a wild month. I'd say I did quite a few sessions.
But you gotta like it is that attachment to the mind that is afraid of letting the mind get so still that there is no mind.
Yeah, I'm still a little bit afraid of that, to be honest.
It's your mind that's afraid of being no mind.
Yeah, like I like the things I know. They're pretty interesting. I'm like, it's, but I'm coming to terms with the fact that it's gonna, eventually sort of get.
Then instead of knowing, it's being, knowing, acting. It's
Okay.
being like
When in the state of being, do you sort of know everything, right? You know truth, and so you kind of know everything.
I am that I am.
Okay. Um. Let's see what else. Oh,
But it
one of.
depends. Like
Go ahead.
you heard of 5-MeO DMT?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because that's like the legend of Montezuma's gold.
How so?
The Spanish heard that Montezuma had this being the best treasure ever, like this ultimate treasure. And they heard that it was buried up in that they were looking for it, and they heard that it was buried up in the desert north of Mexico City, up in the Sonoran Desert area. And in that,
Okay.
there's a lot of like plants that have produced DMT, and
Oh
insects
wow.
feast on these plants that produce DMT. And then there's a toad that spends 10 months a year underground in the desert. And it comes up and it feasts when the rains come. It feasts on all the insects that eat the plants that have loaded the DMT. So all the DMT gets concentrated into this toad. And the
Oh.
toad, in order to like process it, it secretes it as mucus.
And then you lick the toad.
I don't know about licking it, but
That's from South Park, I guess.
it's called Montezuma's Gold. And the Spanish
Wow.
went there and they dug up the desert for hundreds of years, looking for this gold, the Montezuma's gold treasure. But his treasure, it turns out from like people now investigating it, so many clues were there that it was a spiritual treasure, and that it's this
Wow.
toad that secretes this mucus, and when the mucus dries, it dries gold as gold flakes.
Oh,
That's the
wow.
that's the most potent psychedelic known to man.
Wow, that's great. And the conquistadors, they were just like, we want the gold. We need to bring back the
They
money,
were operating
right?
from a lower level of consciousness.
Yeah, very, very just
Their
focused on the
treasure.
material realm.
Montezuma and the Aztecs are focused on the spiritual treasure.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
amazing, amazing. So, what one of my viewers, he wanted to know where you live. Actually, are you still in Trinidad and Tobago?
I live in my body.
Or... Where's your body at? I guess.
I've been kind of ghost nomad for a few years. I've been in the
Oh.
jungle, in the Amazon shamanism.
Mhm.
I've been in India studying Ayurveda. I'm in this time of like I don't have kids. I don't have debt. I can live minimally and I can travel and learn. And I see this as like my greatest contribution is like improving myself. And I won't always do this, but I'm really curious right now, and I'm still a student, so I'm traveling and learning. And Trinidad, it's a very interesting place. It's very dangerous right now. Like my father carries a gun. Like it's very, very
Oh
dangerous
wow,
place. It's the
wow,
sixth most dangerous place in the world right now.
wow.
And
Is that in part as a result of COVID and everything, or was it
no,
COVID?
just violent crime and a lot of guns coming from Venezuela. And Trinidad is a very, very interesting place. It's kind of like a libertarian experiment.
Oh,
So it's
fun.
extremely free, but the other side of freedom is chaos. And I
Yeah,
used to
you
think
have
that
to
I was
carry
like,
a gun everywhere.
yeah, I used to think that I wanted to like make a life there, and then the reality hit me of like, all right, security, protecting myself. If I have a family, I need to like, I want to go on a trip to some remote beach with my wife and children. I need to have the gun ready. I need to be ready for anything,
Yeah,
and I need to be ready to actually like
to actually use it.
use it. And I started to think to myself, well, like, oh man, do I really want to live like that? And when I did some real introspection, I didn't.
Hmm.
And
It does it,
now
like
I'm
you were saying,
kind
it
of,
puts you in a very agitated stress mode all the time, right?
yeah.
Super tough to live
So
well.
where am I now? I'm in Victoria, British Columbia.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
Very
my
nice.
girlfriend lives here, and right now during this ongoing COVID time, I'm staying with her in her apartment.
Nice. See what else I want to ask you about. Do you have any sort of like morning ritual, morning prayer?
Yeah, in the morning I say some prayers and mantras, and then I touch the ground with my right foot first, start the day in an auspicious way.
Hmm.
I learned that from my Ayurveda teacher. It seems like a cool thing to do.
Yeah,
Can't hurt.
just being conscious and intentional about which foot touches the ground
Yeah, and,
first
like, and I
seems
also like
interesting.
kind of like salute the earth when I do that. Like,
Huh.
um, then I scrape my tongue in the morning. It cleans off any mucus. And if you look at your tongue in the morning, everyone should look at their tongue. If your tongue is coated in white, that means that you did not digest your the meal the night before properly, and that
Oh
it's
wow.
clogging. It's metabolic waste. It's clogging you up.
And you look to see if it's white.
Yeah, I look to see if my tongue is white, and then if it's white, that means I ate too late because our metabolism works with the sun. When the sun goes down, our metabolism really slows. And when we go to sleep, our metabolism slows all the way down.
Okay,
You don't
okay.
want to eat too much at night. And if my tongue is white, I ate too much heavy food too late or too much food. And then I scrape my tongue with a tongue scraper, and the act of scraping it stimulates all my organs because you got a lot of nerves there, organs to start
Oh.
functioning. Then I take a cold shower. Ideally, for a healthy body, you want to have a bowel movement in the morning. If you don't have a bowel movement in the morning, things aren't working properly.
I do that's definitely one thing I'm on top of. Although I eat, one thing I do is I eat like too late a lot. Like you were saying, like I eat after, and that's like that's a habit I've known I've needed to get out of for a little while. Just I don't feel great. Like my stomach doesn't feel good when I wake up. Sometimes if I eat late, I'm hungrier early. If I don't eat late, I go like all day. I'm not hungry.
Yeah, you're not good to eat late. It's best to not eat than eat late. And then I drink hot water in the morning after I brush my teeth and clean my tongue.
Hmm.
And the first thing I put in my body is like 2 mugs of hot water.
Wow.
It's
Do you make like tea, coffee, anything? You're just doing hot
oh,
water?
hot water is the most perfect, simple medicine.
Wow. You do like turmeric or any sorts of just
You
straight
do
water?
ginger would be better or lemon. If
Okay.
you're if you're overweight a little bit and your metabolism is weak, you can boil like a thumb size of ginger,
Okay.
a teaspoon of black pepper, and a teaspoon of cumin, which is also called jeera. And you boil
Okay.
that 10 minutes into a tea and you drink that. And that'll help the body clean out metabolic waste that's accumulated. So
So we're
that's what,
doing thumb of ginger, teaspoon of black pepper.
mhm, and a teaspoon of cumin, and boil that in a pot for 10 minutes. And then when you drink that, that would be the equivalent of like a real great medicine because ginger opens up all the channels, even the channels
Hmm.
into like the cell itself
Mhm.
that everything diffuses in and out of. Black pepper will get in, and the compounds in the black pepper rev up the metabolism. And then
Okay.
cumin has the properties of really helping eliminate the waste.
Oh,
So
perfect.
processing and eliminating
So you got the trifecta right there.
that's right there. And
And
to
then
drink
it'll
that,
kind of that'll be good for like on like a fasting day where I'm kind of just trying to
I,
flush things
I
out
recommend you do that every day for like
every
two
day
months.
regardless. Okay.
Yeah, and
Cool.
do that for a while, and that'll help your metabolism get stronger. So you'll be able to process your food better. You'll have more energy. Your immunity will be better. You'll be more enthusiastic. So
Fun.
like I would do that if I woke up and I had a lot of like mucus or I felt stiff or really
That's like literally me every morning.
or
You got the mucus, you feel stiff. It's you know.
yeah, winter time on a rainy day where the energy is gonna have too much moisture, too much like
Hmm.
I would do that. Then I yeah like it's not perfect, but I take the crypto. That's kind of what I do. So then I dive into all my charts and what happened the night before and all like communication.
Hmm.
Then
Mhm.
I get the essential stuff out of the way. Then I do yoga and pranayama for like um, takes me a good chunk of time, but I go through this routine, and when I'm done the routine, it's like a huge feeling of satisfaction. Like not only did I get more healthy and more strong, but I got a little bit higher.
Yes, yes. That's the same thing with I have like prayer ritual thing in the morning and I kind of it takes a little bit of time, but afterwards I feel like I'm on operating on a higher level now, like for the
Mhm.
rest of the day almost.
Yeah, and some of it, what I do takes a lot of that primal instinctual energy that is your greed and survival and reproduction energy,
Mm.
and brings it up and transmutes it into higher levels of expression. Because that's like real
Mm.
primal energy.
To
Like
transmutes it up to sort of like your more cerebral capacity to take that energy and do a good thing with it instead of a
yeah,
short-sighted thing.
yeah, like so many traditions talk about the life energy that if you were to just masturbate or have overindulgence in sexual activities, you waste it.
Mhm.
If you think about it, this horse, this organism, your organism, it's one of its main lines of code is reproduce.
Yeah, that's like the if you go furthest back, that's like the most important one, right?
So
Don't die, reproduce.
if you're giving your organism orgasms all the time, you're telling it that it's winning at life.
You're like you're good, everything's fine, right?
That line of code ticks off. It's like we did it. We're winning at life. But
Mhm.
if you refrain from just wasting that energy, it can be a very powerful driver for like self improvement to get stuff done. And your organism will even make itself more beautiful because it's like, hey, we're failing at this very important mission. We need to like get things done.
Yes.
And
100%.
you can use that energy, like qigong is all about that, yoga deals with that. And in
Hmm.
these Amazonian, like, I've done 4 of these dietas of different plants so far, 4 months. There has to be a total restraint of any release of sexual energy, even in the dreams, everything. And
Wow. Even in
energy
the dreams, how can you even control that?
has to be, you can control in the dreams. And you use that energy like the rocket fuel to really have an accelerated growth during that time.
I gotta say, I've gone. First off, I'm like so happy to see this like porn free slash like no fap movement starting to like gain
Mhm.
traction because I do think like porn just feeds into this sort of like base layer energy, right?
I think it's
Um,
weaponized.
yeah,
Why is it free?
it's
Because it
it's
emasculates the
bizarre.
population. And if you're looking at porn, every time you're doing that, you're telling your unconscious organism that doesn't know that's a screen. It doesn't know that's not real. That's because it doesn't know that it's not real. It's arousing.
Mhm.
When you're seeing another male mating with the female, it sends a very powerful message to your unconscious organism that you are not the alpha. Because if you
Yeah,
were the alpha, you would be the one who's mating, but you're cheering him on. You're not mating.
100%. You're giving him your energy,
And yeah, by doing
right?
this over and over again, it's reinforcing that you're the
Mhm.
beta male. So it
Mhm.
makes you more passive, more eager to please, less likely to speak up, to
Yeah.
rise up, to stand up for yourself. So if we were the people farmers, herding the Homo sapien exploited, domesticated, herded farm animals,
Mhm.
we would want to emasculate them because it's easier to control. None of the sheep are going to stand up and say, "I'm not going in the cage.
Yep.
I'm not.
Yep.
I'm not listening to the sheepdog." They're just going to be like totally passive and weak.
It's wild to realize that like I mean it's like really like who is paying for all of this stuff to be free? Like it really does make you think if like you were saying like the people farmers, right, that play
Weapon,
this
the
game
guys
on a
behind
higher level.
Hollywood
It's
and the propaganda.
yeah, it's and like I can remember back on times where I was like the furthest I've made it is almost 2 months without masturbation at all and like in that time like I feel like I'm operating with like a whole new clarity, right? Because you're like, okay, like I am in like complete control of this organism, right? And right, like when you are in control like that, it does bring a level of awareness and consciousness that I don't think most people generally even get to experience.
It's power. It's like you're taking back control over your horse, instead of the horse like running down, wanting to kick down the stable and do all kinds of, like, the horse always wants to make decisions. The organism, the meat suit, the biorobot, always
Mhm.
is programmed for short-term gain, long-term pain. But you need the rider to step in and the rider to take control and protect the horse from itself.
Yeah.
Like, no, 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 no. We're going to take a little short-term pain or the absence of
Mhm.
pleasure for some long-term gain.
Yes, yes. Are there any sort of like you know how they put like the blinders on a horse during a race? Is there anything like we can do? I mean, right, you can cut out electronics and Netflix and everything and that helps, right? Um Sort of wondering about like anything else for I don't know, like mental techniques almost.
There's a yoga one that is very powerful for this. It comes from pranayama. So you want to sit down kind of on your heel under your perineum, kind of tuck your foot, 1 foot under, and you're sitting.
Okay.
And then you're going to put your hands on your knees and you're going to blow all your air out and lean forward. And then you clench your perineum, all the muscles kind of like in the pelvic floor.
Okay.
Then you suck up the diaphragm as much as you can. And then you close the chin down and you stay like this with your diaphragm sucked up and your chin closed down as long as you can. It's called Mahabandha. Mahabandha because it's the great lock. It uses the root lock, the middle lock, and the throat lock. And the energy starts to build up and build up and build up, and it makes you feel like you're shaking, and it makes you think you're going to die because you have no air inside. And then when you've done it for maybe like a minute, or you said a prayer or a mantra or something, The longer you hold it, the more powerful it gets. And it takes practice to be able to hold it for a long time. And then you release the throat and you start to inhale from the nose, very slow, as controlled as possible. Then you release the middle. And when all the air comes in, you release the root chakra lock, the Mula Bandha, the
Hmm.
pelvic floor muscles. And that makes us so much energy build up and then come up, and it kind of presses up against it, like the top of your skull, and you feel this wave of energy just come up. And then with that energy, there's like this Zen feeling of like zoom. The mind is still, and you feel like your
Okay.
rider and the horse is now stopped fidgeting or twitching, and the horse is just chilled out under you, awaiting the next
That
command.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, I do it three times in part of my routine, and
Okay, you do so you even do that every day, not just when you like sort of feel stressed by
I
something or
do it every day. It's so good for you, and of course, by doing that, you squeeze the organs so much, and the organs are like sponges, and you're squeezing because you're pulling the diaphragm up and you're squeezing everything, and you're giving your organs a nice squeeze of all kinds of metabolic
mm,
waste and gunk that is kind of build up in your
gets
most
almost squeezed out of them.
your most vital tissues get squeezed out,
Okay.
and you're bringing in all the blood into that area because it's a big vacuum you're creating. So
Fascinating.
another one is called Agnisara, where you do that same thing, but when it's up, you pump it 100 times, and
With
it
your
rinses.
breath. With your breath here.
No, just the breath
Or
is all the way air out, and you're just using the diaphragm. So it creates like negative pressure, positive
oh.
pressure, negative pressure, and you're flushing out the organs, and you're raising up a lot of this sexual primal energy up for higher forms of expression on a subtle level. And on a
Can
physical level, you're cleaning your body and strengthening your metabolism.
can you give me the names of those again?
Mahabandha. I'll text you a link to an
Okay.
article about it.
Perfect. And actually, along these lines, since we're talking about breathing techniques and stuff, have you tried or like are you familiar with the Wim Hof method?
Yeah, I was really interested in what was going on. So remember we talked about the breath. Inhale is the sympathetic nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Exhale is the parasympathetic, relax. So by stimulating for a long time, the inhale response, because he's all about the active inhale and the passive exhale. It revs up the body. And
Okay.
something happens too when you go in an ice tub. Your organism's own intelligence kicks in, and you go.
Hmm.
And when you do that, at the same time you do that, it's like the bellows of a blacksmith.
Hmm.
Starts to make this area of the chest, you start to feel above the stomach, below the chest area, start to get warm. So your body does it for a few seconds on its own. But Wim Hof was kind of like jumped in and started to do what the body does, and but intentionally
Oh,
has to generate this heat. But you got to keep doing it for a long time.
gotcha. And you can even do that, I'm guessing, before you go into the cold water
Yeah, yeah.
as a preventative. Oh, okay, awesome.
I found the article. I'm sending it to you, and you can pass it on to your readers.
Thank you. Um,
Sorry, viewers. Okay.
so I mean, we had planned to talk for like 2 hours, and we're coming close to that end, and I actually do have to get a few things done pretty soon here. Um, maybe like one last thing I'd like to ask you about is like your thoughts on simulation theory, and like, do you think that's like a sort of accurate way to represent reality?
I think the simulation theory is very interesting because it kind of like these old wise men from these different traditions, like Hermes, Hermetics, and like Lao Tzu, and then yoga as well. Like they're all kind of saying like the world is an illusion. Like this one great Hindu sage, Ramana Maharshi, has this quote that I really love. It really resonated with me. He said, The world is an illusion. Brahman alone is real. The world is Brahman. Brahman is like the supreme God, the supreme reality. So the
Hmm.
world is an illusion. Only the supreme ultimate reality is real. And then he says the world is the supreme ultimate reality, man, like manifested. So he's like taking you out,
Hmm.
bringing you back in to say like life is spiritual. This is it. Don't like escape from it. Be in it and see everything as the simulation, as like the see the intelligence behind the simulation in everything.
Okay, okay. I like
Yeah.
that.
So it's kind of like the old versus the new, because we have like Elon Musk talking about in the future we're gonna have computers so powerful. How do we know that we're not in one right now?
Yeah, right. It's a pretty compelling theory to think like, where I mean, I don't know if you follow like the work of Ray Kurzweil, and he talks about the singularity when, AI becomes really intelligent, and it's like, we're maybe 20, 30 years away from a technologically singularity of intelligence and consciousness, and it's like, I don't know, it does seem conceivable that we're in
It
a
could be the intelligence of the simulation is manifested as the simulation.
yes.
It's like the formless divine ultimate reality is behind every form.
And I'm even thinking like what if like we're effectively like play a part in building the simulation and then we sort of like living inside of it afterwards?
The
Like
samsara, round and round.
right? Makes
Like they,
perfect sense like when you try and unify these sort of ancient Hindu stuff with like computers and what we have,
yeah, I
what we
met
know
this
today.
medicine woman in Arizona, and she, if I remember correctly, she had the opinion or like was telling me that the same people who like destroyed the Native American culture purposely in a very evil ways are the same ones who are reincarnated into that sick culture as
Oh, wow.
obese, addicted, unhealthy people, and they're like the souls on the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like be the energy you want to attract is like one of the rules of the simulation. If you want good stuff to happen to
Mm.
you tell the simulation that you want good stuff to happen to you by doing good stuff.
It seems, like a pretty straightforward signal to send.
Be the energy you want to attract. So if you want to learn, teach. If you want to give.
Oh,
Want to like be helped, help others.
amazing.
That's like the nature of karma, which is kind of like you're always telling the simulation what you want, and in a way, it's like you're not like you're writing the script of the play as it goes on by like the actions you choose to consciously and intentionally do.
Hmm. I
This
love
is like
that.
like the Bhagavad Gita will call like karma yoga, which Krishna
Mhm.
said is his favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um. Wow. This has been absolutely like a really great conversation.
Yeah, I forgot we had viewers for a while there. It's just a good conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to add before we sign off? Anything you want to plug? I don't know what you're
Yeah,
working
just
on these days.
everybody out there recognize like take a really good look at your life. Like, what is medicinal? What is poisonous? Because remember, health is strength, it is willpower, it is clarity, it is self awareness, self realization, situational awareness, courage. It is victory energy, it's freedom energy. And sickness is weakness, it's passivity, it's decay, it is unconscious animal reactivity, it's defeat, it's slave energy. And the system wants to keep you as a slave. Ever since there's been civilization, it's a people farm. Like we didn't want like the people who had slaves didn't want the slaves to learn to read because then they'd realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm a slave. This is not just. This is not right.
Mm.
But the civilizations went and kidnapped a bunch of wild people, tribal people, brought them in chains. They had kids a few generations later. They never knew what freedom was. They're just born into this system. And they just accept it out of passivity, out of weakness. And that the system that we're born into wants to keep us distracted. It wants to keep us weak. It wants to keep us entertained. It wants to keep us sick because, like, sickness in body, mind, and spirit. And it's coming at us with this sickness because the culture is so inherently sick. If you're born into this culture, you are sick. And you have to take it upon yourself to, like, Free yourself. Like Bob Marley said, none but ourselves can free our minds from mental slavery. To start to get healthy, to rise up out of this slave energy where you work a 9 to 5 job that you absolutely hate, and you live a whole life based on fear, fear of not being good enough, fear of not being loved, fear of not being high status in the group, fear of
Hmm.
not being in the group, fear of not having enough and surviving, and fear of not procreating. To rise above that to this hero life energy, because anything that is really healthy is strong, it's free, it's powerful,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
victory energy. To rise up to this level where you live a life out of love, where it's no longer about fear, sickness. Fear is a sickness of the spirit. You rise up to love, where it's like, well, what do I love doing? Where do I love being? Who do I love being with? How do I love doing this thing? And how can I give myself as a gift of love to the world, which is myself, that I love, so that when my time comes, I can die complete like a hero, Valhalla. Only the brave may live forever.
Yep.
Courage and strength. And the system wants to keep you sick, and you got to take it upon yourself to like stop comparing yourself to other sick homo sapien domesticated farm animals,
It's one
and
of the
become a,
biggest traps today, the
yeah,
comparing yourself.
and become a human being instead of a homo sapien. Like, free yourself, get healthy, cut out all the poisons, and start to get more medicines,
Yeah.
things that are good for you, things that give you life energy to uplift you. And then you start, as you get healthy, you naturally want what's good for you, which makes you even more healthy, which
And then
gives you
you'll
more
spiral
willpower
upwards.
to spiral up. So you can consciously start to spiral up and claim your like birthright as a free human being,
Yeah. Those
not as,
the
not
first
as
few
just
steps are the hardest, and then it starts to get momentum, right? But that,
stronger. You get stronger and stronger and stronger.
yeah, as you're starting out, it can be hit
And
in the face. Oh, get back down, right? It's
there's
tough, but if
there's
you
a
can make
quote
it
I
out,
love from this great Tibetan yogi. His name was Milarepa. He said in the beginning, when he was like doing this, this upward spiral, his practice, he said in the beginning, nothing came. In the middle, nothing stayed. And in the end, nothing left. So in the beginning, you just
oh,
gotta keep going on faith. And then after a while, you start to get high enough and self-aware enough that you can see how you're growing and how you're evolving, how far you've come and how you used to be sick.
mm,
Because when you're sick, you don't even know you're sick.
mhm,
Only as you get more healthy, you realize the first step of getting healthy is realizing, oh my God, I'm sick. It
yep,
could be porn, it can be drugs, intoxicants, illusions, Netflix.
yep,
Because oftentimes we have 5 free minutes, you pull out the phone.
yep. I'm so guilty of that as well. I'm just,
Instead of saying, like, well, how is my organism? How do I feel about this difficult challenge? What is my organism communicating? What is the course of action? And like being with these emotions and processing them instead of just diverting. Because this is
mm.
weakness.
You just want
Like,
to you experience it, experience good or bad, experience it, right? And don't shy away.
and then of course a dopamine addiction is like the root of it. It's that the nature of pleasure is it's addictive. And you
Yeah.
got to have the balance so that you have power over the pleasure instead of the pleasure having power over you.
Mm. It's a tricky business, but if you can get there, it's
If you,
something else.
and it's a feedback loop too. Everything is a feedback loop. So when you're sick, when you're angry, you see more things to feel angry about, which makes you more angry. When you're
Mm.
depressed, you see more reasons to feel depressed, which makes you even more
And
depressed.
it's like it's a feedback loop on the Facebook algorithm too, where if you're
Ah,
clicking on the things that make you angry, right, they send you more angry, right? It's both up here in your brain, and it's literally how the algos work. It's an
everything,
amazing,
everything is the feedback loop.
yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I guess let's break this loop. This conversation has been incredible. Many viewers in the chat are thanking you for being here and saying how much knowledge you dropped.
Are you gonna
Um,
share it on any platform or?
oh, absolutely, yeah. So I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna clip it from the Twitch, and I'll put it on YouTube, and then once I figure out how to do the whole. There's a few different applications for the podcast stuff, but I'll send you a copy once I have it on YouTube and stuff if you like.
And I just want to say that like if you have and you really want to learn Like health is real wealth. It should, like, if you're going to learn anything, the first thing you should learn is how to like take care of your organism and your health.
Mhm.
And if we want to really learn this, modern medicine is all about profiting off of sick, suffering farm animals. It's pharmaceuticals are human pesticides. If you really want to learn about real medicine, you got to look at the get it from the last remnants of the remaining free people.
Mm.
And this is like Ayurveda. This is traditional Chinese medicine. This is Amazonian medicine. And I would recommend everybody like just go on YouTube, start to look up Ayurveda techniques to take care of your health. It's so simple, but it's immediately useful. It's so practical. It's like an immediate impact on your life.
Amazing. Yeah, I honestly I can't wait to start trying this morning tea that you recommended.
Mhm.
And I can't wait to learn more even.
It's an Ayurveda means life knowledge in Sanskrit.
Seems like a fitting
Ayurveda,
name for it, huh?
life, and Veda is way of seeing knowledge.
Okay, okay. Amazing. All right, on that note, yeah, thanks again. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
Yep, see you
Have
around.
a good afternoon. Bye bye.
Bye.
Let's do the chat.
Let's see. Oh, hang on a sec. Alrighty, folks, that was George Bovell, Olympic Olympic athlete, spiritual guru, or a more medicinal guru, even you could say. Um, I know, G, you wanted me to not stop, but I do actually really have to dip here. Get a couple things done. You like my house? You want a better tour? I'm actually gonna do I'm gonna do an art tour at some point in the near future. You can see in the way back there you can see Santa Maria de los Muertos Maria or something. I'm not quite sure what it is. She's like the saint of the dead. Looks like negative energy. I mean, and actually, maybe he would agree. I kind of use it as a reminder to remember that, like, we are mortal and I'm gonna, want to spend every day doing good things. But I mean, to call it negative energy. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, what was your question, B? I can text him. Oh, sports injuries. Schnitzel. We'll probably have him on again, actually. As far as like future guests go, we have Charlie Shrem is coming on. He's big in the Bitcoin world. He went to jail for a couple years actually for selling Bitcoin. And he's been on like a couple documentaries. We also have Matt McKibben, who is very active in the decentralization world. He runs an organization called Decentranet. He's also like very into like psychedelics as well. And I'm actually doing a spot on my friend's podcast as well. Her podcast is called Gossip Equals Bad. I think we're doing some recording on Wednesday, unless she needs to reschedule. So yeah, I'll let you guys know when the next interview is, and that one should actually be pretty spicy. I don't know. I gotta. She talks a bit about like relationships and stuff on the show, so I might do some sort of confessions of a former sugar daddy, if you will. Um, but yeah, I guess thanks for thanks for joining. See you all next time. Be well.